is your name? What's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. In legal actions, we refer to an unknown person as John Doe or Jane Doe. This began in England as early as the 14th century. The name sounds like a common one, as it was undoubtedly meant to, but is in fact very uncommon, which helps avoid confusion. And where are you from? New York. The former Dutch colony, New Amsterdam, was renamed in 1664 after an English fleet sailed into the harbor and forced Governor Peter Stuyvesant to surrender. The English colony was then renamed New York in honor of the Duke of York, who became King James II. Couldn't you be more precise? Buffalo. The origin of Buffalo's name is quite obvious. It was named in 1801 because buffalo were still found this far east. According to another story, the city was named after a Seneca Indian whose name translates to buffalo. I don't agree with you. The city's name Buffalo is a mispronunciation of the original name Beau Fleuve, from the French meaning beautiful river. Who are you? I hardly know, sir, just at present. At least I know who I was when I got up this morning, but I think I must have been changed several times since then. What do you mean by that? Explain yourself. I can't explain myself, I'm afraid, sir, because I'm not myself, you see. I don't see. I'm afraid I can't put it more clearly. For I can't understand it myself to begin with, and being so many different things in a day is very confusing. It is not. Well, perhaps you haven't found it so yet, but when you have to turn into a chrysalis, you will someday, you know, and then after that into a butterfly, I should think you'll feel a little queer, won't you? Not a bit. Well, perhaps your feelings may be different. All I know is it would feel very queer to me. You, who are you? Let's talk about order. I don't know. The conflict I see as basic is between spontaneous and free feelings, and feelings requiring order, imposed order, structures, habits. Order is ugly in the face of feeling. But on the other hand, everything is order. What else is there? There are simply different kinds. I can't conceive of such a thing as anarchy. Anarchy is a cubist painting. Explication to text, please. It's true that anarchy is simply a variation of order. You know, gangs of black-jacketed motorcyclists tearing up little towns might be a horror, but that isn't anarchy. Each of those gangs has a leader. Each of those towns does too. It's a conflict of two different orders. Most threats about anarchy are fears of an order different from the one presently constituted. I'll admit that it's easier to live with one order than with two or three different ones, but not necessarily if the order is a totalitarian state, say. Anyway, anarchy, I looked it up, means without ruler. That's hard to envision politically, but if we move to another discipline, we can imagine it. Think about a traditional painting of a table, say. Most of what you see is the top, the things piled on it, the cloth or a bowl of fruit, a vase of flowers, the bread and cheese, you know. Say it's a painting of the entire table, not just a still life. If there's a long cloth, you may not even see the legs. Or take another example, a building. You see the facade, you don't see the back unless you walk around it. And if it's a working building, chances are the back isn't attractive. It has sliding garage doors and ramps. It's the receiving and warehouse part of the building. But even if you see the back, you never see the foundation, the basement, the part that holds everything else up. Well, that's our usual view of society. But in Cubist painting, everything is important. Everything is paid attention to. Even the underside of the table, the insides of desk drawers, the space around the table, each thing is seen and seen in the round. Each is shown in its essentiality. Each is given room to exist. What dominates the painting is not the top, the flower, but the whole, the design of the whole. There is no single thing in a Cubist painting that dominates the whole, yet the whole coheres. Yeah. But in Cubist painting, things don't stay in their own space. That's one of its main points. Each little section infringes on every other around it. Everything overlaps. Exactly. When you do something ridiculous, how much does it bother you to have other people notice it and laugh at you? Do you prefer being with a group of people or being alone? There was a common problem which everyone, at heart, wanted to resolve, and each put it above every other personal interest, and all were repaid by the pleasure of finding themselves in agreement and mutual esteem with so many others. Later, Cosimo came to realize that when a problem in common no longer exists, associations are not as good as they were before, and it is better then to be a man alone and not a leader. But being a leader, meanwhile, he spent the nights all alone in the woods on sentry duty, up on a tree, as he had always lived. Cosimo passed his time always on the watch, or rather it was not a pastime now, it was his natural state, as if his eye had to embrace a horizon wide enough to understand all. Was he thinking how brief was the step which separated him from a return to our world? How brief and how easy? I have no idea what he thought, what he wanted up there. What are your thoughts on the position of women in today's society? 1997. When did you last sing to yourself or to someone else?
5 a.m. Friday morning, Thursday night, far from sleep. I'm still up and driving, can't go home, obviously. So I'll just change direction, 'cause they'll soon know where I live. And I wanna live, got a full tank and some chips, with me and a gun and a man on my back. And I sang holy, holy as he buttoned down his pants. You can laugh, it's kinda funny, the things you think at times like these. Like I haven't seen Barbados, so I must get out of this. Yes, I wore a slinky red thing. Does that mean I should spread for you, your friends, your father, Mr. Ed? Was me and a gun and a man on my back. But I haven't seen Barbados, so I must get out of this. And I know what this means. Me and Jesus, a few years back, used to hang, and he said, it's your choice, babe, Just remember, I don't think you'll be back in 3 days' time, so you choose well. Tell me what's right. Is it my right to be on my stomach or Fred Seville? It's me and a gun and a man on my back, but I haven't seen Barbados, so I must get out of this.
How do you define beauty? The most beautiful thing in Tokyo is McDonald's. The most beautiful thing in Stockholm is McDonald's. The most beautiful thing in Florence is McDonald's. Peking and Moscow don't have anything beautiful yet. Would you be willing to go to a slaughterhouse and kill a cow? Do you eat meat? My manager during the war had been buying up oxen for the army. He told me that he had then, down in the Maasai Reserve, bought from the Maasai a number of young oxen, which were offspring of Maasai cattle and buffalo. It is a much debated question whether it is possible to cross domestic animals with the game. Many people have tried to create a type of small horse fitted to the country by breeding from zebra and horses, though I myself have never seen such crossbreeds. But my manager assured me that these oxen were really half buffalo. They had been, the Maasai told him, a much longer time growing up than the ordinary cattle, and the Maasai, who were proud of them, were by this time pleased to get rid of them, as they were very wild. It was found to be hard work to train these oxen for the wagon or plow. One strong young animal amongst them gave my manager and his native ox drivers endless trouble. He stormed against the men, he broke their yokes, he foamed and bellowed. When tied up, he shoveled up earth in thick black clouds. He turned up the bloodshot whites of his eyes, and the men said that the blood was running from his nose. The man, like the beast, towards the end of their struggle was deadbeat, the sweat streaming down his aching body. To break the heart of this ox, my manager narrated, I had him thrown in the bullock's paddock, with his 4 legs tied hard together and a rein round his muzzle. And even then, as he was lying dumb on the ground, long, scalding jets of steam stood out from his nose, and terrible snorts and sighs came from his throat. I was looking forward to seeing him under the yoke for many years to come. I went to bed in my tent and kept on dreaming of this black ox. I was woken up by a big row, the dogs barking and the natives shouting and yelling down by the paddock. 2 herdsboys came into my tent all trembling and told me that they believed a lion had got in amongst the oxen. We ran down to the place and took lamps with us, and I myself brought my rifle. As we came near to the paddock, the noise died down a little. In the light of the lamps, I saw a speckled thing making off. A leopard had been at the tied-up ox and had eaten the right hind leg off of him. We would never come to see him in the yoke now. Then, said my manager, I took my rifle and I shot the ox. The wild came to the aid of the wild. How do you feel about cigarettes? Do you worry about your health when you are surrounded by secondhand smoke? Smoking is certainly one of the oddest and stupidest human idiosyncrasies. Why did anyone think a camel is a good product image for a cigarette? I think each one is the equivalent of smoking an actual camel. I love the campaign they had a few years ago on their anniversary. 75 years and still smoking. Well, not everybody. I think there might be a few empty chairs at that big birthday bash. Maybe the appeal is the fire. There's something very scary and exciting about fire. People always run to see a fire. They're very proud to say they have a fireplace. This is what smoking is really about. The power of, I've got some fire right here in my hand. Smoke and fire is literally coming right out of my mouth. And it's very intimidating to the non-smoker because it's like talking to someone who's going, my head could open up, lava could explode out, pour right out of my face. Doesn't bother me a bit. Do you believe that there is a God? Would you enjoy spending a month of solitude in a beautiful natural setting? Food and shelter would be provided, but you would not see another person. Each one of us is, when the lion growls in the high grass, alone with her own wits, her own fleas, her own strength and weakness, her own mortality. That lesson is great privilege. When you have grasped it, you are fairly safe as to what can happen to you in life. You must lose the things that you hold dear, your lover, your health, your coffee farm, even your life. But you will be secure in your possession of the thing with the greatest and perhaps only value, experience itself.